because I got to tell you, as someone who considers himself to be a free market Republican, part of me has been uncomfortable with where some of this hearing has gone. I wish we were talking, instead of what we've been talking about why Mylan can charge $600 for this, or $300 for a generic, or whatever. Because I think that would be a really good discussion about why this same exact product costs between $100 and $150 in Europe. The same exact thing from the same exact manufacturer costs $100 to $150 in Europe. In fact, I think you can get it over the counter in Europe for $75. One of the reasons, by the way, is that there's 9 different people making the stuff in Europe. Because it's easier to get drugs approved in Europe, Mr. Throckmorton, than it is here. I've heard you talk today about this new 10-month plan, and you keep telling us, and it's sort of, well, we have a 10-month plan that starts October 1st, which makes me wonder how long did it really take before this became a big national deal. My guess is it takes a long time to get this stuff approved. And one of the reasons they can charge $300 or $600 is because it's too hard to get new products approved in this country. My understanding is that an EpiPen competitor would be even more difficult to get stuff approved because it's both a drug and a delivery device. By the way, for those of you, when this hasn't come up, the stuff doesn't cost anything. This is one of the oldest chemicals that we use. I think this stuff is more than 100 years old, and on the internet it says it costs between like 10 cents and 95 cents a vial for the stuff. It's a completely generic, it's adrenaline. It's really easy to make the stuff and really easy to get the stuff. But for some reason in this country, there's really only one provider. So if you can really charge $600 for it and people will pay for it, why aren't more people rushing in to make the stuff so that they can get a piece of this huge market? Because it's too hard to get the darn stuff approved. And that's what I wish we were talking about. Ms. Bresch, I wish we could talk about what you talked about in your CNBC article about how crazy the pricing is. Because it is bizarre. And we buy stuff in the healthcare market in ways that we don't buy anywhere else. The reason that this same product is more expensive every single year, when everything else in this room gets less expensive every year, is because it's in the healthcare market, which doesn't function properly. And we could have talked about that and how hard it is to figure out how much stuff costs and the 5 and 6 people that touch it between the time it comes out of your product and gets in the hands of the customer. We didn't talk about that. Instead, we talked about your profit margins with people who have no clue what that means. We talked about distribution facilities. We talked about costs of goods sold. We talked about board meetings. We talked about your salary. We talk about a bunch of stuff that tries to make a lot of us look really good. Somebody in my own party said that there's no way you could really earn $18 million a year. That bothers me, okay? And I'm not comfortable with that. But at the same time, Ms. Bresch, and I've had this conversation with other people who've sat in that same chair, you get what you deserve. Not because you're a bad person, not because you're charging too much or too little for a drug. Nobody in here has any clue as to whether or not you're charging too much or too little. We don't like it, we know that. But we don't understand the cost. We don't understand the distribution system. We don't understand how healthcare products get priced and sold and distributed. I'll tell you what we do know, though, is that you've been in these hallways to ask us to make people buy your stuff. In fact, I think there's laws in 11 states now that require schools to have epinephrine in some immediately deliverable fashion. You've lobbied us to make the taxpayer buy your stuff. At the federal level, we passed the law here. We did it, by the way. I was here when we did it. Everybody was here when we did it. We did it in 2013. It went by voice vote, one of those magical things that happens when we're not on the floor. The White House called it the EpiPen bill. And it gave this wonderful financial incentive to all of our schools to have this product in the schools. My guess is that didn't happen by magic. It may have happened because your mother works for the State School Boards Association, or whatever the group is. It may happen because your dad is a U.S. Senator. But you came and you asked the government to get in your business. So here we are today. And I was as uncomfortable with some of these questions as you were, I'm certain, sitting over there. But I have to defend both my Republican and Democratic colleagues because you've asked for it. So I guess this is my message. If you want to come into Washington, if you want to come to the state capitals and lobby us to make us buy your stuff, this is what you get. You get a level of scrutiny and a level of treatment that would ordinarily curl my hair, but you asked for it. I wish it weren't like that. I wish you could go off and make your stuff, and I wish the market functioned, and I wish you didn't get government involved, but that's not the world we live in. And since it is, I have to defend every single question that was asked of you today, and I wish I had questions of my own, and I do, but I've only got 5 seconds left, so I'm not going to get a chance to ask them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.